The best part of our September meeting is always welcoming our new employees. So I know we were hoping to get to welcome you at the little reception, but didn't get out of our audit committee meeting soon enough. So sorry we weren't there. Hopefully you saved some cake for us.
Got to keep the priorities in the right place. Okay.
So I just want to give you a really hearty welcome to the district. You are in a very special place, and I hope you've already come to learn that. To be hired here, you went through a rigorous process, so you all must be really amazing. I haven't met a lot of you yet, but hope to meet you. And in Jericho, we really care about the whole child and mental health as well as the academic health. And we care so much about the teachers and the staff, and you're going to have a really great experience. We hope you're here for a really long time, and welcome to the family. I'm going to call out names, so if you could stand so we can see who you are.
And again, because we do this and we get names added and names deleted right up until 15 minutes ago, we apologize for any mistakes in our list. We do that beforehand. We do that after you've had the cake. And again, one of the things that we warn all of our new staff members is in welcoming you to Jericho. A year from now, you will all weigh 10 pounds more than you do tonight.
And I apologize if I say any names incorrectly as well. Sarah Ballou. Wendy Kochi.
Hold applause at the very end in the sake of time, please.
Jamie Hermel, Melissa Lee, Kim Libertini, Suzanne D'Ambrosio, Joan Cardoza-Roman, Selena Chin, Alexa Corbin, Samantha Cunningham, Brian Dussel, Michael Engelke. I met you. At the soccer game. Andrew Erligan, Taylor Green, Michelle Hernandez, Michael King, Jessica Layden Tremblay, Jillian McKenna, Gianna Pellegrini, Jenna Sansaric, Marianne Stock, Tracy Youssef, Allison Brush, Melissa Derringer, Jacqueline Gropper, Sheila Moriello, Nicole McLaughlin, Rebecca Newman, Lindsay Deniger, Christina Gigante, Allison Small, Andrea Bisso, Tracy Cohen, Maggie Panico, Darius Scarambola, William Anderson, Alejandro Gonzalez, Michael Donlin, Renee Gonzalez, Dina Solomon, Avery Cohn, Christine O'Brien, and Michaela Finley moved to a different place.
A sincere welcome to our class of 2022-23. You are, and again, we know it already. We have a superstar class of 2023, and a hearty, warm welcome to the Jericho family. Thank you for being with us tonight.
And you're invited to stay for the whole meeting, but if you'd like to leave, we will not hold it against you.
But please sign on your way out. Seriously, we know that many of you have a great deal of work to do in preparation for tomorrow. So again, seriously, please feel free. We're going to take a 2-minute break, so please feel free to.
see you.
It sounds phenomenal. It's really clear. There was a little bit of a hum that I picked up, but it's what. Oh yeah, I'm just telling you, it's good. It sounds good. Doing wonderful. There we go. Doesn't matter. It's very clear.
Eric Sumner is going to come up to give out an award.
Okay, the high school. The high school business education department is made up of only 4 teachers. But together they're a powerhouse in their coursework and of course in the great Future Business Leaders of America club team that they have here. They had their first meeting this week. Over 200 students showed up for the first FBLA meeting. There was no room left in the little theater. The newest member of that department, this is his 2nd year, he's going to be talking about right now. So Michael Golden, the Business Teachers Association of New York State announces Michael Golden, who is entering his 2nd year of teaching business education at Jericho High School, as a 2021-2022 Marcia Iverson Outstanding New Teacher Award recipient. New York State Award recognizes new business educators who have made significant contributions to the development and advancement of business and marketing education early in their careers. So Michael is a graduate of the program at Hofstra University. Marcia Iverson is a legend in New York State as part of that. So this new teacher award statewide is named after her, and we're happy and proud to have Michael with us. It's better if you picture taken with me.
I was trying to find the picture of you from Homecoming in your...
I think it's on Twitter somewhere.
I don't have that. We should have put that on the screen while he was getting his award. Congratulations, very well deserved. Okay. Now we are going to skip ahead to our audit report. And I'm going to invite Alan Yu, who's from Collins Matthew, who is our outside auditor. And before he speaks, I just want to congratulate our business office, led by Victor Manuel, and our new district treasurer, Melissa Lee. Welcome. Once again, we have I guess Alan will tell you, but we have a wonderful we're in a wonderful financial position, and our report was unmodified, and congratulations, and we really appreciate the job well done and hard work.
Thank you for that introduction. My name is Alan Yu. I'm one of the audit partners of the firm, Colin Danowski. The school board of Jericho School District has appointed my firm to be the external auditor of your district's financial statements as required by state law. We've just met with the school board as the audit committee to go over the results of our audit, and I'm happy to report to you that we will be issuing what's known as an unmodified opinion about your district's financial statements. An unmodified opinion is the highest level of assurance that we as auditors can give an entity's financial statements, which means that the financial statements were prepared in accordance with accounting guidelines and principles, and that they're free of material misstatements. We also follow the government auditing standards and tested and review your district's internal controls over financial reporting and your compliance with laws and regulations. I'm glad to report to you that we did not have any reportable findings on your internal controls or your compliance with laws and regulations. So that's also a clean report. We did revisit last year's recommendations. I'm happy to see that the district has implemented our recommendations, and those recommendations have been implemented to our satisfaction. We did have one recommendation with regard to the capital assets policy, which I understand district management and the school board will be discussing later on in the year in terms of implementing additional threshold for financial reporting purposes. Financially, the district ended the fiscal year with a positive fund balance, total fund balance of about $55 million. Your district is in excellent financial health. Fund balance is the indicator of the strength and financial health of a local government. Your district was able to apply almost $6.4 million in fund balance to help keep your 22-23 fiscal year property taxes at the same level, total tax levy at the same level as the previous year. I believe it's actually two previous years, okay? So with no tax increase. Overall, you do have reserves, and the most notable one being the capital reserves, which the district has been utilizing over the years to fund and to help to pay for capital improvements without the need to borrow, to go out and issue bonds to pay for these capital improvements. The district did see increase in terms of federal aid received from because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Your district did receive additional funds from the federal government to pay for additional programs, as well as to pay for some of the expenses that were incurred during the COVID shutdown. Okay. The other funds also, the school lunch fund or the cafeteria fund also saw a positive increase in terms of the fund balance, also largely thanks to these additional state and federal aid as well. Okay. Once again, the district ended the year with a positive surplus, positive fund balance. On the financial statements, we did report a decrease in fund balance, but that's really primarily because of a transfer of the capital reserve money into the capital projects fund as authorized by the voters to complete capital projects. So I would like to thank Mr. Grishman, Mr. Manuel, and their staff for their assistance throughout the audit process. And once again, Mike, I commend you for maintaining a strong financial position for your school district. Okay. Questions?
Just one thing, you talked about the general reserve. I'd like just everyone to understand the amount of effort that Mr. Emanuel and his department have done over the last couple of years to keep our tax levy flat, because not only is our general reserve strong, but the individual reserves that we have set aside for funds for employees and for retirements and things like that are also fully funded. And I think, Mr. Yu, and the material you put together, it's in the board package online and people can see it. The reserve for employee accruals, that's funded to 95% of what the current liability is. The max obviously is 100%. We have reserves for retirement contributions, which we have, 6 years of funding based on your numbers in there. And so I never want people to underappreciate the amount of effort that's going into providing the education and the assets that we have here, while at the same time keeping the tax burden on the community as low as possible.
Did you want to approve the funding of reserves in the external audit now, or did you want? Okay. Accept, no. Approve the funding, accept the audit. There we go.
So can you,
Sure.
can you summarize the funding of the reserve?
Sure. So what Mr. Yu was alluding to before, that our fund balance overall went down slightly, but the more important thing is the revenues over expenditures. The real revenues over our expenditures was $8.2 million. Being that we had the proposition of $9.7 million to expend out of our capital reserve, the difference is a $1 million reduction in the fund balance, but not operationally. Operationally, we had a surplus, and we used $2 million of that surplus to bring the tax levy down from originally a 1.95% increase down to flat. And it'll be the third year in a row at that tax levy, and I think either the 7th or 8th flat tax levy over the last 9 or 10 years, which is something we're certainly proud of, because simultaneously, we were able to fund all of the improvements you've been seeing district-wide. So in that, we pulled money out of reserves, and some of the balances at the end of the year, we're putting money back into the reserves, primarily into the capital reserve. So we are fully funding now at this point with this resolution, fully funding capital reserve 4, and the community just approved a new capital reserve 5 for in the future. When we have surpluses next year, the year after, we'll be able to put it in the capital reserves and continue our long-term capital plan. Is that sufficient? Any motion?
Well, we'll still do it as 2 separate motions, so we'll have a motion to accept.
A motion
To accept?
a motion for the funding of reserves
Oh, I was
first.
going to do, you want to fund?
You have to,
Okay.
yeah. Fund the reserves first and then accept the order.
Okay. Do I have a motion to, so move? Chris, second? Jen, any discussion? Yep. Okay, all in favor? So that is okay. Now, do I have a motion to accept the external audit report?
We have to put the word draft on that? Were we accepting
Acceptance
audit
of the
report?
draft external
External,
report, that's
okay.
Jen, second. Chris, any further discussion? All in favor? And
And to clarify, the final audit report will be done within the next few weeks.
Yes.
Before the October 15th deadline.
That's correct.
Thank you.
And if there's, obviously, we'll share it with you when it's final, and I'll point out if there's anything materially different.
Thank you for your time.
thank you,
Thank you.
Alan. And while we're in the audit discussion, the internal audit report, are we having any presentations? Is Lauren talking about that, or are you?
No.
No, okay. So we had a clean, very positive internal audit report. She told us that our school district has the lowest amount of risk in our processes, any of the schools that she does audits for. So congratulations and thank you again to the business office. We really, really appreciate all your hard and excellent work.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to accept the internal audit report? Jen, second. Divya, any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, now we are going to move to the students who are here. For the middle school student council report, Aryan Mukherjee.
Good evening and welcome back. We hope you had a restful summer. My name is Aryan Mukherjee and I am the 8th grade student council representative, and it is a pleasure to be here this evening. School opened on Monday, August 29th, and everything ran smoothly. Our high school leaders volunteered for Project AIM, which stands for Assisting Incoming Middle School Students. They guided our 6th grade students in the hallways and taught them how to open their lockers. They also shared their positive experiences as middle school students. Thanks to Ms. Breland and Mr. Velez, our middle school and high school social workers, for coordinating the AIM program. And a special thanks to Mr. Gleason and Ms. Balud for a great school opening. Our SEL theme is community. SEL stands for Social Emotional Literacy. Community is best defined as a group of people who, regardless of diverse backgrounds, can embrace their differences, enabling them to engage in a positive communication and work together towards common goals. Keeping in alignment with our SEL theme of community building, in the middle school facilitated their first NEST period on Friday, September 16th, and tomorrow, September 23rd. We are looking forward to a great day. We also kept our ongoing connections with our Jericho community. On September 8th, the middle school students had their first middle school had their first PTSA meeting. We had a great turnout. The topic was Personal Best Panel of New Perspectives featuring the assistant principal, Ms. Balut, the school psychologist, Dr. Brush, curriculum associate, Ms. Hermel, and sixth grade counselor, Ms. Schmidt. We are so thrilled to have Dr. Brush, Ms. Hermel, and Ms. Balut as part of our Jericho family, and not to mention Mr. Gleason as our new principal. We are so lucky. Middle school clubs and sports have begun. Each morning, announcements are made regarding the meeting time and location. We encourage all the students to participate in extracurricular activities. Club advisors will be talking to students about the clubs we offer in the middle school in the upcoming week. Parents can also view the information on the Jericho website. Auditions for the middle school musical, Aladdin Jr., were yesterday and this afternoon. The musical is scheduled for December 8th and 9th at the high school Little Theater. Mark your calendar, it's gonna be a whole new world. This week, Mr. Gleason and Ms. Balut facilitated sixth grade presentations on the growth mindset concept named by Carol Dweck. We teach students that the ability is not fixed, but with good attitude, hard work, and grit, you can get better at anything. It was a wonderful experience for our students. Our 11th annual OAS kickoff is scheduled for Thursday, October 13th. The OAS program is comprehensive, school-wide initiative designed and evaluated for the use at the elementary and middle school. This researched program was one of the first to recognize the impact of bullying and school achievements. Every year, a guest speaker attends to share their message on bullying prevention. The Harlem Magic Masters will be speaking with the middle school students and challenging staff to a basketball game. The guidance department has begun scheduling classroom lessons to educate students about the OAS program. Stay tuned for further details. We are looking forward to this exciting day. The middle school counselor, Dr. Brush, and Ms. Breland facilitated a breakfast for new students to the middle school. This helped assimilate them to the Jericho School District. Our middle school back-to-school night is Thursday, September 29th at 7 p.m. Parents will have an opportunity to meet their child's teachers and follow their schedule. We hope to see you there. We're looking forward to a productive and enjoyable school year. Have a wonderful evening, and thank you to the school board and staff for all you do.
Thank you, Ari, that was great. Now to High School Student Council, Ruby Shanker and Patrick Zell.
Hi, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Grishman, board members, administration, and the Jericho community. We are so excited to be back, and we're looking forward to the new school year. My name is Ruby Shanker.
And I'm Patrick Zhao. So on the first day of classes, our senior class kicked off the school year by taking part in the annual Blackout and showing their spirit. Kicking off the year, we recently held our school-wide Spirit Week leading up to Pep Rally and Homecoming. Students dressed up over the week in various themes, culminating in yellow and blue wear for our Pep Rally on Friday. Our first normal Pep Rally in 3 years was held in our new Sam Springer gym, where varsity sports teams and a special audience team competed in different games. Our boys varsity soccer team came out on top by a slim 20 points.
We hope everyone enjoyed our annual homecoming this past weekend. Our homecoming featured numerous game booths, club booths, food trucks, a dunk tank, a fun slide, a prize booth, and of course, sports games. Middle school students had their homecoming from 2 to 4:30 on Friday afternoon, and high school students had their homecoming from 7 to 9 on Friday evening. The carnival was open to the public from 10 to 2 on Saturday, and it was definitely a great success.
We also had our first Friday night lights on the new field on Friday, September 9th. Unfortunately, our team lost 31-6, but members of the community were encouraged to participate in our Sea of Blue theme and watch the game. The next varsity football game is this coming Saturday at 2 p.m. Don't miss it.
A very big congratulations to Jericho's theater department for winning the national competition to perform Frozen at our school's annual musical. Jericho was the only school in New York that's able to perform the show. The Jericho community has an exclusive chance to watch a Disney musical this upcoming spring. We hope you don't miss it.
Also, congratulations to our selected NYSSMA 2022 All-States and Alternate students. Our selected students were Daniel Hahn, Angela Zhu, William Kim Shoemaker, and Lauren Marchand. Our alternates were Catherine Lee, Caitlin Choi, Manji Akamatsu, Joshua Ochalik, Kaylee Park, Andy Liu, and Emily Kawakami. Our NYSSMA Creator Award winners were Manji Akamatsu, Ethan Y. Kim, and Amanda Swickle.
The Jericho Mindfulness Ambassadors Council recently raised $1,500 to support the Long Island Crisis Center and its suicide prevention walk, Let's Walk, Let's Talk, Stepping Together to Prevent Suicide in Long Beach on this past Sunday, September 18th. They hope to continue their efforts for future years. The
PTSA is selling 2022 to 2023 Spirit Wear. A flyer was emailed to all students. The link to order can be found under our high school's All Students 2022 to 2023 campus announcements, and the deadline to order is October 15th, so order soon.
High school back to school night is October 6th. Parents will have the opportunity to meet the teachers that their students have after school and walk in their children's step for an evening.
Our 9th, 10th, and 11th grade students took their photos this past Monday for their student ID cards and yearbook photos. Retakes are on November 7th.
Please consider donating blood at the upcoming blood drive on October 11th. The blood drive will be held in the Sam Springer Gym. All interested in donating will be required to complete a permission slip that can be found under our campus announcements.
The Jericho school team will be participating in the Alzheimer's Association Walk to End Alzheimer's to raise funds and awareness for Alzheimer's care, support, and research. Please support our efforts by participating in the walk on October 2nd in Eisenhower Park or by donating. The link to register and donate can be found under our campus announcements.
Thank you to everyone who's here today. Happy Rosh Hashanah and Shana Tova to all who celebrate, and we hope to see you next month.
Patrick, great job. PTA Council Report, Aileen Gingold.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Grishman, Board of Education members, Central Administration, faculty, staff, and community members. My name is Aileen Gingold, and I am the Vice President of the Joint PTA Council. Allison Edelman, our President, couldn't be here tonight. The Jericho Joint PTA Council had its first meeting on Monday, September 12th, and we were happy to be in person again. We greeted our returning council members and welcomed new ones. We are thrilled to have new leadership in all of our units. We have also added new liaisons to SEPTA so that every unit has a SEPTA representative that will sit on both the SEPTA Exec Board and the unit board and report updates at the PTA meetings. We feel this is a great way to bridge the gap between SEPTA and our PTA units. All of our units are off to a great start of the school year. Each building welcomed back students with balloons and signs with a breakfast for our faculty and staff. We have decided that all our PTA meetings will be in person this year with some type of streaming or recording capability when possible. We want to give our families many opportunities to stay connected with our schools and PTA, and we feel this is the best way of doing this is in person. Each of our units is striving for a 100% membership. This can be done on our member hubs using credit cards, making it super easy to join. We are always looking for new ways to increase PTA involvement in all of our units. If you have any ideas, suggestions, or concerns, please contact the officers of your school's PTA. This past weekend was our homecoming. We were thrilled with the turnout. Kids of all ages were there to enjoy games, prizes, food trucks, sporting events, dunk tank, slides, and more. Each unit donated money to support our homecoming, and it was a great celebration for our community. A special thank you to Denise Nash. Denise is the puppeteer that made homecoming happen. She pulled it all together. Denise pulled it all together and is the true definition of fun. We truly appreciate her tireless efforts. We have postponed our back-to-school night in the elementary schools so that all buildings will now have back-to-school night in person at the end of this month. We look forward to meeting our teachers face-to-face. Each of our units has exciting things coming up. The elementary schools are having car washes to raise money for their 5th grades. The middle school is busy planning a great Oveus Day in October and an 8th grade trip to Washington, D.C. in November. The high school has launched a new version of the NEST program and has over 25 colleges visiting us virtually in the month of September. These are a great way for our juniors and seniors to take a first look at college and explore the college process. We hope that all of our students take advantage of these visits. Jammin' Jayhawks, a program supported by SEPTA and the JAA, is back after a 2-year hiatus and was extremely successful this past Sunday. It is a great way for our kids to build their skills in soccer, basketball, and dance. Our PTAs cannot work alone. We appreciate all the help and support from our Board of Ed, administrators, staff, and community. We are grateful for all the hard work and effort and energy that goes into the many hours you give back to the school community. We look forward to a very successful, healthy, and safe school year. Thank you and have a good night.
Thanks, Aileen. Now I'm going to turn it over to Hank for the superintendent's report and some other presentations.
Okay, so before I do the superintendent's report, I've asked both Chad and Dave to spend a few minutes talking to us about the NEST program, talking to us a little about our summer program in the middle school and high school, and I've also asked Dave to give us a quick update on the status of our high school academy. I know that you're going to be projecting behind us, and I guess I would ask the board just to turn around and watch the screen unless everyone would like to sit next to
And then let's talk about what the movies are.
May want to go around front.
I don't think you have to go underneath it more. I don't think you have to.
It's going up. Yep.
Good evening, everyone. As we're just waiting for the projector to warm up, let me start by obviously thanking Mr. Grishman, Board of Education, Central Administration for this opportunity to present on what are, I think, 3 extraordinary programs. And it's actually a great opportunity to present on all 3 because while they're distinct programs, there's obviously, and you'll hear as we've kind of put it together in one presentation, a connection between how each of these programs weaves together to support what we do. I know I heard Jill talk earlier tonight when introducing our new staff members about our commitment to supporting our students in a multitude of ways, but certainly through their emotional and mental health as well as our academic support. So I think tonight will be a perfect example of 3 programs that do just that up at the campus. So the first that Chad and actually Joe Kuhn, who you're going to hear from as well, who served as summer school principal through an internship program, want to talk about is the summer program. And I think the first thing that anyone wants to know is why do we have a summer program? So a couple of years ago, due to the pandemic, the federal government provided opportunities for school districts to apply for grants. And there's a grant called the Carissa Grant that, thanks to the Board of Education and Central Administration, we were in on and received. And it allowed us to be able to receive monies to support a 3-year program. So last year in 2021, we had the first iteration of the summer program. And then this year we were able to put in place the 2nd year of it. Next year it'll carry forward for a 3rd year. And really the federal grant money was put together to be able to support students in their social and emotional learning, as well as the academic impact that the pandemic provided. And we realized identifying students that were in need to be able to come in the summer in a unique opportunity to be able to advance both their SEL skills as well as any academic gaps that happened due to the pandemic would be really important.
Good evening. I echo Dave's thanks and the opportunity to present tonight. So we used both quantitative and qualitative measures to identify students that would have the most benefit from our summer program. In both the middle school and high school, we have a number of safety net structures in place to identify students who may be in need of additional support. Some of those safety net structures include at-risk meetings, instructional support team meetings, social and emotional cabinet meetings. So an at-risk meeting involves the administrative cabinet analyzing a broad swath of student data. We look at attendance, we look at grades, we look at credits in the high school. Our instructional support team takes place when a teacher identifies a student for whom their current instructional practices aren't being successful, and the team gets together and identifies additional interventions or strategies that teacher might try. And our SEL building cabinet ensures that students are supported both socially and emotionally as well. So it also, the selection process also had the human touch of a guidance counselor too, who gets to know their students extremely well over the course of multiple years. So all those factors went into selecting students for the summer program. I'm also pleased tonight to introduce an administrative intern who had the ability to serve in the capacity summer school principal. I know that Joe Kuhn has a great future in school administration if you choose to take that route. I hope he continues selfishly to serve as a real middle school leader on our faculty. So it's my pleasure to introduce Joe Kuhn.
Thanks, Jeff. I hope this gets easier as we go. So we had a good idea of what the students needed, and we provided opportunities for connections with each other and the faculty. We also provided activities that fostered participation in the program. We also provided lunch for every middle school and high school student. You might not think that's a big deal, but it was great to see them eat lunch together in the high school cafeteria and also decompress in the game room we set up for them in the senior lounge. Ultimately, we provided students with a different school structure for the summer weeks with some TLC from us. The program was not students sitting in a hot classroom in rows with direct instruction, staring out the window, wondering what they could be doing. It was less about moving from science to social studies to math, and more about building connections. It wasn't about the grade on the top of the paper, but it was really about building community. The program was fun and engaging. We were able to have extended periods, and that was able to foster project-based learning. So if you were in the STEM lab, you might see students working together to build rockets, and it was a really great activity. We actually got to launch them on the field later in the program. The Humanities Block had students writing and illustrating their own stories based on characters that overcame obstacles, and then they published it on a virtual library. Sorry. We had selective activities. This was a great opportunity for students to choose their path in the afternoon. They learned chess from a teacher. They might have went to play ping pong. They learned how to cook with Mrs. Rodriguez. They even did some tie-dyeing and learned fashion. And again, it was a great opportunity for students to build connections. Not only were students working as a team in their classes, but oftentimes we had the middle school and high school classes combined. And again, it was a great opportunity for them to build connections and work together. Students also met in RP circles every single day. This was awesome. The students really had a big buy-in in this, and it gave them an opportunity to, again, build connections, but while also fostering social and emotional learning. We individualized and catered to student needs. So each academic class had 2 teachers. So that provided the opportunity for teachers to work in small groups and also one-on-one instruction. We also had a math pull-out program as well that I think worked really nicely for students that could use a little extra help. You're gonna see some slides of pictures in a few, but as someone that's worked here, I've been a middle school teacher for 9 years, truly blessed to be here. And this was a really good opportunity for me to not only help run a program as an administrative intern, but also see how a non-traditional summer program can be successful. So I just want to thank the board and whoever helped recommend me to do this, because I really, really appreciate it. It was really worthwhile for me. So thanks.
Thanks, Joe. You know, you hear it from all of us. It was a team effort. You know, it started with some really creative thinking with the building administrators and the curriculum associates working together, starting almost 2 years ago now. And how it carried forward and what it actually looked like on our team this summer. We had English teachers, math teachers, science teachers, social studies teachers. It also included a social worker, a school counselor, PE teachers, including having the pool open and accessible to our students, tech teachers, our fax teacher, I know Joe mentioned Ms. Rodriguez, and allowing kids to explore through cooking, and some of the other added benefits that the summer program provided. It just so happened that between the two schools, we essentially had 3 new administrators between the high school and the middle school. And to provide the administrators with an opportunity to start making connections with students, and quite frankly, some of our neediest students, is just a great opportunity for them to have experienced and to transition into the school year. So to know those connections were happening was really important. To know that we were able to select some of our most outstanding teachers to make those connections with students that quite frankly have often been disconnected was an essential part of the program. And then finally, you know, we very purposely put Joe front and center tonight because he truly did an outstanding job. And you know, I know each and every one of the faculty members that worked this summer really appreciated his leadership. But we actually had 3 administrative interns from the district that helped support the program this year. So it was truly a great collaborative effort.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the structure of the day. So the program took place from 10 to 2, 4 days a week for 4 weeks. You're looking at a master schedule of the program. Across the top, you can see that we had 6 different cohorts. Generally, they were organized by grade level. High school had mixed grade levels for incoming 10th, 11th, and 12th grade students. Then looking down on the left side, similar to many day camps, the day started and ended with a whole group meeting in the high school cafeteria. There were 2-hour-long blocks which rotated between STEM, humanities, family and consumer sciences, and physical education, depending on the day. There was a 30-minute RP circle in which students built connections with each other and a staff member. And the period before dismissal, we called those selectives. They're really high-interest electives that take place there. They included things like tie-dyeing, basketball, smoothie making. In one class called Smoothie and a Movie. I think that was my favorite one. Also taking place but not visible on the schedule was a pull-out math support that we provided for students who needed extra support in mathematics, and that happened throughout the day. So we see some pictures there of our fun and engaging selectives and team building activities. I was really excited at the first faculty meeting with the summer school staff to tell them, you know, one of the metrics for success that we had was going to be smiles. And we don't always get to do that in school, but we definitely wanted this to be a place where kids wanted to be. Also, there was many opportunities for project-based learning. That's a teaching method in which students learn by actively engaging in real-world, personally meaningful projects. You can see in the bottom left and top left pictures, students are building rockets. They're learning mathematic and scientific concepts in the creation of rockets, which they got to launch during the course.
Here you see some kids, so again, individualization, we gave a lot of student choice throughout the program. So I've never met 2 kids, you know, sitting next to a video game system that opted to play chess or Jenga. And again, as Chad said, we measure in smiles, and you could see the smiles shining through. One of those students, I asked him, you know, where's your sister today? Your sister's supposed to be here. He was like, I know, I told her, this place is awesome. And that's a high school kid. So how often do you see a high school kid that wants to come to a summer program? And yes, there's plenty of opportunity for team building, whether they were had the chance to, you know, play outside, eat lunch together. We had a nice culminating barbecue at the end of the year where we served hot dogs, hamburgers. It was really nice for some administration to come out, and the kids really enjoyed, again, spending time together, learning to cook together, you see, and we got some rocket building on that left side.
The last objective that you had seen earlier was personal development, and I know Chad did a good job of really talking about the selective period. So some of these pictures really highlight what students were able to do during their selective time at the end of the day and which activities they want to engage in. So as much as you've heard a lot about connections and about team building, one of the other things that we wanted to make sure that we were fostering over the summer is personal development and the way for the individual to be able to elevate and build their skills as well. You know, I mentioned before that the program is a 3-year evolution. So from year 1 to year 2, some of the things that we started to think about were how to infuse some of more of our core academic standards into the program. And I know the curriculum associates work closely with the teachers in order to do that. We saw enrollment go up slightly in each of the schools this past summer. We had 69 middle school students in attendance. We had 39 high school students in attendance. We saw an average daily attendance rate of 88%, which again may not seem like a high number in general, but when you factor in that we had students here during the summer, and in some cases, depending upon whether they were here to earn high school credit or not, there may have been some family vacations built in. Certainly those attendance numbers are factored in. And then as I just mentioned, similar to last year, some of our high school students were able to use their experience over the summer to essentially extend their school year to make sure they earn credits that they might not otherwise have earned. So just some key data points. We actually were able to have students accumulate 22 course credits through extending their school year into the summer this past year, as well as 11 students that wound up passing August Regents exams based on the extended work that they were able to do.
One of the beautiful things about the summer program are the connections that were built there. You know, I got a chance to see teachers checking in on students from the summer program early in the year, this year, to see how they're doing, and then likewise, students are going back to teachers and know that they have another adult that they can count on for support in the building. Of course, the support for students in our summer program doesn't end in July. Our safety net structures continue throughout the year. We'll continue to identify students who could use additional support, whether that's another grant-funded after-school program or other supports that we have in the building. And I know that we look forward to discussing next year's summer program. As I understand, it's a 3-year grant, and of course, we will continue to make tweaks as we get feedback from students, staff, and the community. I don't know if it's appropriate at this time to ask if there's any questions for the summer school program.
Who were the other 2 administrators besides
We had Daniela Mina, who is the librarian of one of the elementary schools, and Adrian Nasser.
Adrian Nasser.
Adrian Nasser.
Thank you. Moving right along to NEST period here, or our NEST program. It's a privilege to talk about this program because I'm really proud of it. Simon Sinek says we need to start with why, so my next slide, we're going to start explaining why we have NEST before we explain what NEST is. So school connectedness is critically important for teens and young adolescents. It is defined as the belief held by students that adults and peers care about them as individuals as well as their learning. And kids who feel connected to school are more likely to attend school regularly, they're more likely to stay in school longer, have higher grades and test scores. They're less likely to abuse drugs or engage in other risky behavior like drinking and driving. They're less likely to experience suicidal thoughts or attempts. They're less likely to experience violence. And they're more likely to seek the support of an adult in a building if an issue arises. And what's really interesting is that those factors appear to be protective, that they extend past the school age. So kids who report feeling connected while they're in school do better even after they graduate from school. So that's our why, is about school connectedness.
And to add to that a little bit, and some of you have heard me sort of tell this pathway and this story before. You know, my entry into this district started with conversations with students and, quite frankly, the board around mental health and concerns about how our students were doing. And I remember my first interview with students, and they said, you know, we're concerned about one another, what can you do? And, you know, some of my first statements were, well, first we have to learn about what the community needs, and certainly for me, being new. So to come in my first year and to be able to then sit in meetings that were supported by the district and were joint efforts of the high school and the middle school to figure out what kind of program that we could create that would be meaningful for our students was essential. This is just a quote that we feel starts to speak into that. Human beings are happier, more cooperative and productive, and more likely to make positive changes in their behavior when those in positions of authority do things with them, rather than to them or for them. So what we were able to do was develop a NEST program, and it's a customized program here in Jericho. It's quite frankly ever evolving because it's a new program and it is all about the care of our kids. So with that, the first iteration is certainly not necessarily going to be the last iteration. But one of the things that we found ourselves on and we come back to all the time is our vision statement. And it states that the NEST period is a safe and supportive space for students to feel a deep connection with the members of our community and share voices for making positive change. For me, there's a number of really key ideas that come out of this vision statement, but first and foremost, the words connection, which I know you've heard over and over again tonight, and you're going to continue to hear. And the other is community, and the sense of how do we make sure that each, every, and all are in some way, shape, or form participating and being a part of this program.
I think for many of us, when we hear the word restorative, we think first about restorative justice, which is actually a way to respond to harm that's occurred. It's an attempt to repair relationships, to make amends, to turn mistakes into learning opportunities. But restorative justice is what happens after a mistake is made. Restorative practices are an attempt to prevent harm or those mistakes from happening in the first place. And our NEST program is an example of a restorative practice. In a typical NEST period, students are seated in a circle so that all students can be seen and heard. This gives students an opportunity to hone important social and emotional skills and improve connectedness. And it's our sincere hope that students feel a sense of belonging that's enhanced through the restorative practice of NEST periods, where they get a chance to sit and share about all manner of topics in our NEST program. I'm going to talk a little bit about the middle school structure here. So the middle school structure is largely the same structure that we had last year with some different timing. It's based on grades, so students participate with other students in the same grade. They're paired with teachers that they have currently in their schedule, and all students and staff participate at the same time in the day. We carved out a mini period in between two periods where everyone does this at the same time. There's approximately 15 students per group. We spread out into every nook and cranny in the building that we can find, and topics are based on our monthly SEL themes. Our first one was on values, and our next NEST circle tomorrow will be on community.
So to talk about the high school model, we are actually going through a change and a new iteration this year, and actually I want to back us up to the vision statement for a second, because I think the last part of this is really important, and it's about creating spaces for students to be able to share voice and have impact on making positive change. And I think one of the things that we heard, not just from our students, but from our teachers as well, was that the philosophy that we went into last year to create mixed grade groups at the high school was one that was very hard to make the theory match the practice. And what we kept hearing was meeting every 3 weeks in groups where kids didn't already have a sub-community was very difficult for them to delve deeper and for us to meet the goals that we had put forward. In addition, when we had a program that was everyone at the high school engaging in NEST at the same time, while again in theory it sounded great, in practice it meant that a lot of our groups were meeting in spaces that were less than ideal. So while many of our spaces were in our classrooms, some of our students were meeting in NEST groups in the gymnasium, in the cafeteria, and in spaces that were really not as conducive to the work that we wanted to do. So we put our heads together and we thought, how do we make sure that we can provide a program that's more in line with the requests and the statements of both our students and our faculty. So this year, we wanted to make sure that we had a grade-based system. We also wanted to make sure that we had a program where the sessions were occurring in classroom settings and more appropriate settings collectively across the board. And what we're going to do this year at the high school is 6 of the sessions will take place in English classes. So our English classes are typically grade-based. The students already know each other, they know the teacher, they already have a sub-community that's been previously developed. So when they then engage in NEST sessions, there's already a comfort. And already the feedback that we've heard from our students is very positive about that change. Tomorrow we're heading into our second NEST session of the year. When we started to then think about how do we make sure that it's truly community-based and it's not just a program that's happening in our English classes, we evolved into a program where, in addition to those 6 sessions, we're also going to have 2 NEST sessions in each of our social studies, math, science, world language, and elective classes this year. So students are going to be able to establish connections in a multitude of spaces, and they will be able to experience both different peer groups and with different adults. So the amount of connections that they can make at the high school is one that we're very excited about and very proud of for this year. So at this point in time, I know I'm going to talk about the academy in a few minutes, but if there are any questions about the NEST program, this would be the time.
Hi, my question was for middle school and for high school setting, how many times a year is this period occurring?
12 or 13 times a year
For middle school
for middle school.
and for high school as well?
And for high school, it's a little bit extra because of the number of other classes. So it's 16 sessions at the high school.
But after tomorrow, you're going to be through 2 in the middle school?
Yes. We wanted to build a community early, so it's just,
Do the peer groups only change in high school or are they changing in middle school as well?
they're changing, you know, that was a good question that we struggled with. Did we want to keep the groups the same year to year, or did we want kids to have a teacher who they currently have on their program? You couldn't do both. So we opted to keep kids with teachers that they currently have in their program that seemed to be more valuable to us.
So they have the same group for the whole year?
For the whole year, they have the same group, yes, yeah, but not year to year.
But in high school, they have 6 different.
In high school, they will have the same group in any of their classes. So we do look at our English classes as the core of the NEST program. So those sessions are spread out in English throughout the whole year. But then they will experience 1 NEST session in the fall in each of the other classes listed, and 1 in the spring in each of the classes listed.
How long are the sessions for? Are they full classes, or do you have like an abbreviated schedule?
So, no, there's no abbreviated schedule. So last year, we had an abbreviated schedule to create the NEST period, but these are happening in classroom, during classroom periods.
You have the high school. We have a 30-minute session that we've carved out. So we take 15 minutes from one period, 15 minutes from another period, and we put it in between the 2, and we create a 30-minute mini period there. And that rotates throughout the day, so we're not impacting the same subject areas all the time.
I think we have a question in the audience.
In addition to student and faculty feedback, what are some of the other metrics or outcomes you're looking at to evaluate the impact of the program?
I think it's a good question. I mean, listen, I think ultimately hearing from the students and the faculty are the core things that we want to hear about. So I know we did surveys last year specifically at the high school to get some feedback, and that was, you know, a big reason behind some of the changes that we made, so we want to extend that. But, you know, some of the other factors that we look for are, you know, the data around identifying some of our at-risk students and seeing, you know, are they making connections with other adults in the building? Are they, you know, finding themselves in isolated settings, or are they starting to engage in more peer opportunities? So those are, you know, obviously it speaks to, you know, what you've seen in the vision statement. Alana?
As a senior, you might not have all those subjects as the other 6. So how do you just do it by the period?
So, you know, if you're a senior and you're not taking a math class, what we've talked about is identifying any of our students that are not in one of those subjects And then our school counselors are eager to be a part of the program.
Mainly
And
one language probably, not everybody.
it could be any of those, so not every senior is necessarily taking all of those classes. But we've looked at it as a way to be able to pull out our seniors and have them meet with counselors and to still be able to engage in the program that way.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions about Nest? Thank you. So we have two last slides. I want to talk a little bit about our Academy program, which is now in its 5th year. Another program that we're incredibly proud of. And quite frankly, it's a program that is a huge support to some of our most at-risk and neediest students. So it's a program that's designed to support students that typically have displayed school-avoidant behaviors. And this is unfortunately a growing phenomenon in just about every high school across the country. It's an unfortunate reality when I speak to my colleagues in other schools. But I'm proud to say that here in Jericho, we created a program to support these students and to find ways to make sure that they could be comfortable in school, find ways to work with them to get them consistently in school, and quite frankly, and ultimately to make them successful. So our academy, the main core of our academy is a single classroom that we have. And the main core within that is that we have a 3-period humanities block that every student that's in the academy takes. So that's the first and foremost thing that they have to be in. So the humanities block is where the students are earning their social studies and their English credit, and also have a 3rd period to be able to do some other activities. Sometimes it's an extension of either of those 2 subjects, and sometimes it's an opportunity to meet with our social worker in RP circles like you've heard us talk about in other programs. In addition to that, we run a math class that many of our students in the academy will take, and we also run a science class. In some years, depending upon the needs of the students, because they might be at different grade levels, we've needed to run 2 math classes versus 1, or 2 science classes versus 1, and we really tailor it to the needs of those students. What we're also looking to do is work with our students to see to what degree do they need to spend the majority or all of their day in the academy, or might there be opportunities for them to push out into more mainstream settings. So for instance, we've had students that come into the academy and are there for the core humanities block, but then they're really interested in taking an AP Psych class. So later in the day, they'll be able to take that as an elective, or they're interested in taking an upper level math class and taking it more with their peers. So we really work with our students, so it's not only a program to make them more comfortable in school, but it's also one that's thinking about their future and how to transition them beyond the high school setting. As I mentioned, all students in the program experience the 3-period humanities block. Every one of our students in the program will also be part of the community of RP circles. And we've also had a variety of push-in lessons, often by our school psychologist or a social worker, to talk about mindfulness and coping with stress and anxiety, because unfortunately it's a reality for most of the students that have been in this program. Just to give you some key data points that we pulled out, on the left you see our enrollment by year. So in the first year of the program, we had 3 students enrolled in the academy. That jumped up in year 2 to 7. It came down to 5 students in year 3. Last year we finished with 8 students, and this year we've actually started with 8 students. What I will also say that it's typical for the program to be fluid throughout the year. So if we identify students at any grade level throughout the course of this year that are struggling to come to school or to be successful in a typical school day environment, we may see that number actually rise. There's already been 1 or 2 other students that we've identified as potential for the academy this year, and quite frankly, there could be others that, you know, as to this point, we haven't really put out there, but through our constant at-risk process and evaluation of students that have experienced some struggle throughout the year, we typically see that number grow. So, you know, you can see that there is a growing trend to our academy program. And then the numbers that I'm really just blown away by and really proud of is our graduation success. So in the first year of the program, there was one senior in there that graduated. In the second year, we had 3 students graduate. In the third year of the program, we had 2 students graduate, and last year, we had 4 students graduate from the program. Currently, we have 4 more seniors in the program that we're anticipating graduating this year. While I would say that many of those students certainly might have found their way to graduating, I think that what we've been able to do for students, some of which may not have graduated on time, but all of which were better prepared to go on to 2 or 4-year colleges and to really be better prepared for the post-secondary experience. So if there's any questions about the Academy, I will proudly take them. Hi, Alana.
Do we accept students from other towns around? I mean, I know they would have to pay.
Yeah, I mean, we typically haven't. You know, I think right now the way we have structured the program is that, you know, as you can see, our numbers are growing. And given our commitment to the number of teachers that we have committed to the program and the space that we have, if we started to really open this up to students from other districts, I think we're looking at a different model and one that we would have to explore. In the beginning of the program, when our numbers were lower, we did have 1 student that was placed from another district.
So along that, what is the capacity for the program as currently structured?
I would say that probably right around 10 to 12 students would be a place where if we started to see it get to that point, I think we would legitimately have to start considering whether we need to see the program grow into multiple spaces or whether that truly is a sweet spot for us.
And the 8 current students are broken down between freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, how?
Right now, they're broken down between 10th through 12th grade. So we have 1 10th grader, we have 3 11th graders, and we have 4 seniors.
And admittance into the program is by invitation, or parents have the opportunity to speak to you if they think it's something appropriate potentially for their child?
It's any and all. I think it's through, you know, it's a collaborative process that can start with conversations that we have as an internal team with our counselors and with our administration and our support staff, recognizing, you know, it's not atypical for us to be having regular conversations about some of the same students and realizing that they're in an environment that's just not leading to success, even though we've tried other interventions. It could be students that are truly struggling to get to school on a regular basis, and we're trying to get to the heart of that. And then it extends to a partnership with the family. Typically, we'll then say, hey, we have a program called the Academy. We'd like you to learn more about it. Maybe your child can spend 1 or 2 days piloting in the Academy environment, and let's see if this would be a good fit. And yes, there have been some times where we've had parents come to us and say, you know, my child is experiencing these certain factors. We've heard about the Academy. We think it could be a good fit, and we've actually been able to see that be very successful as well.
3 more quick ones.
Sure.
Are all 8 students part of the summer program also?
All 8 were not part of the summer program. They were all invited. Obviously, we don't mandate students to be part of. Yeah, all Academy students are invited, have been invited to the first 2 years of the summer program.
Second, the graduates, the 4, 2, 3, 1, were those Regents diplomas? Or
Correct.
Were those other? They were
All
actually-
Regents diplomas.
And finally, the classroom space that you use for your humanities, your math science, are those integrated into the rest of the building, or is there space separate?
So we were very strategic in the space that we selected. So we have a space that's right next door to Cafe 126. Ray Velez, our social worker, runs Cafe 126. It's his office as well as the space for many of our students. And he has a very important role in the Academy. So the classroom for the Academy is just next door to Cafe 126. In addition to that, it's a space that has direct access near our tennis courts. So knowing that we have some students that are school phobic and quite frankly, sometimes experience issue when they're out amongst the masses of the high school, to be able to create a space where students can, through our transportation, come right in and out of the building without having to go through the larger spaces of our high school was something strategic in why we picked that space.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it's amazing because I remember when we were talking about creating this, and I guess the thing that I've always had a hard time understanding how it works is that if you have 4 grades in one class, so like in the Humanities Block, how, can you just kind of explain how? that
Incredible
works?
teaching and incredible support from their curriculum associates. I mean, it all comes down to differentiation. And our teachers are doing a spectacular job. What they'll do is they'll collaborate together, the English and the social studies teacher, to find unique experiences that are going to be across all curricular. And then when they need to find ways to have students working, whether it's on independent projects with them in the room, they do an extraordinary job of making sure that our students get what they need. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I just want to thank you in terms of talking about the NEST program, because I don't remember if it was like 5 or 6 years ago that we talked about how important it was. The board made a concerted effort to deal with stress, and maybe around the time we interviewed. The biggest thing that we were talking about is connectivity, and to make sure that each student had at least one adult that they felt connected to if they had an issue. So, I mean, it sounds like you know, perfectly embraced the vision that we were looking for, so I really appreciate that.
I can't help but brag, but just on her way out, Ruby Schenker just said, "Love Nest."
And now, you have a report.
That's good. Again, many of the comments leading up to this point from Marion, Ruby, Patrick, and Aileen talked about some of the highlights of the opening of school and the plans for opening of school. And I must share that while the opening of school feels like it was weeks ago, I guess it was weeks ago, months ago, the first day that staff was in, the first day that the students were in, I think we all had butterflies both of those days, just over the excitement of our staff, the excitement of our kids, to be together with the promise of pre-pandemic activities throughout our school district. The level of excitement, the smiles, the grins, the tears, was just beyond belief, and I think we all walked around those first few days with again, many emotions of excitement, and I have to admit, first day, I think it was the first time I've had butterflies probably in the last 20 years, but it was such an incredible experience. And again, the conversations around, and you heard some of the comments, we're going to have a Washington trip this year. Yes, we are. Those kinds of conversations from kids and staff was just incredible, and kudos to our staff, to our support staff, our teaching staff, our administrative staff, for doing such a wonderful job in welcoming our kids back and welcoming them back in such a positive fashion, and with the same excitement of here are the activities that we're going to celebrate in the 2022-23 school year.
Projector's over here.
And again, kind of can go through. Homecoming, I think, was again symbolic of an excitement that we've not seen, and symbolic of the welcome back. Probably the best homecoming we've had in many, many years, just in terms of numbers of kids, numbers of staff members and kids, their kids. It just was an incredible experience. With that, if you have not yet seen some of the results of our summer construction work, this summer we completed about $10 million worth of construction, and again, the highlights of that work in terms of looking at the Sam Springer Gym, looking at our new tech labs, which are now complete and equipped, our new air conditioning units, new lighting, and just a great deal of work. And again, a credit to our buildings and ground staff for working around all of that construction, and on the first day of school, back to normal in an incredible, sparkling building. We look forward, again, at our September board meeting, But as we look forward to October, November, December, we look forward to an incredible school year, and a school year that will be the best that we've had in many, many years. Just briefly want to mention that the board has adopted last June, the DEI policy. And with that, we have moved forward in establishing a DEI committee. We have begun that process with a core group of leaders from different organizations within the school district. We have put out an email to our staff and to our parent community and to our community members who are on our email list to apply for additional members to the DEI committee. What we're looking for is for the core committee, for us to further diversify the prime DEI committee. And then within their first meetings, their organization meetings, to look toward the charge of the committee, and then start looking at what are the subcommittees that we're going to be forming, and looking at membership to those subcommittees as well. We will continue to update our school community on the work and the progress of the DEI committee. And again, we are really excited that we are formally up and running. Just came back from a superintendent's meeting where one of the main topics throughout the state was the regents' push for the adoption of DEI policies in districts and the formation of committees and work around DEI. And again, there was much discussion and much excitement around the formalization of the discussions around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And again, offshoots taking place within many organizations. The New York State Public High School Athletic Association also picking up the ball and running with it, adopting policies and procedures within our statewide athletic programs, state school boards in a similar fashion. So we are really excited with the formation and the moving forward of our formalized DEI work. And that is, I think, my list.
I have a question regarding the DEI committee. How many members will there be?
On the central committee, probably it will wind up being close to 20 people. But then there will probably be 4, 5, or 6 subcommittees, and each of them could have between 6 and 15 members, but that will be determined.
So one main committee,
Correct.
20.
About approximately.
And is that part of this email that went out of application? Is that 20 going to be made up of people that apply to that?
It will be made up of people, the prime committee will be made up of people who apply. There are also people who I've asked to be on the committee, representative groups, and then the subcommittees could also be coming from people who apply.
Okay, so, but the main committee is going to be like 50-50, or?
Right now, again, we asked for a representative from PTA, Student Council. So that group already has probably 10 or 12 people on it, and then we're going to look to expand it through the application process to further diversify the actual central committee.
Okay, and can you just also clarify, just so people in the community know, what kind of time commitment or how many years do they expect to be on this committee?
We've been asked that question numerous times. Obviously, that is going to shake out as the work begins, but we're telling people who are asking that question, the central committee, as it gets up and running, will probably meet for an hour and a half every 3 or 4 weeks. The subcommittees, again, depending upon the specific charge of the subcommittees, is it a short-term or long-term duration, and will they meet again once every 3 or 4 weeks for an hour and a half? But that will be forthcoming.
Do you already have a list of the subcommittees of what the actual?
In the policy, we have a list of potential subcommittees that the main committee will review and make determinations of when to get up and running.
Okay, so when do we expect to be up and running?
The central committee, their first meeting is scheduled the first week in October.
Right,
I think you had a deadline on the.
Right, the deadline is September 23rd, so are you guys gonna have everyone chosen and who's choosing the?
We will have our first meeting, I think we had talked about the first week in October. Again, it's the superintendent's committee, so I've asked for representation from the groups. We, central office and the chairs of the committee will review the applicants to fill out, with a mindset of further diversifying the committee.
Okay, so October 1st.
October, I think, first meeting, October 3, 4, 5, 6, something in there.
That's 4, so probably not. And will the board have an opportunity to take part in any of these committees?
We've asked the board president to sit on the committee and be the board representative on the committee. The board potentially would be on some of the subcommittees.
But Mrs. Martin, who's choosing the members of the committee? Is that the superintendent of schools?
Superintendent and the chairs of the DEI committee,
Who are?
Eric and Dan Salzman, Eric Sudberg, Dan Salzman.
A different topic, as far as class trips, are we open and fully up and running for class trips in all schools?
Yes.
Our elementary schools is participating in this as well?
Yes.
Do they have planned class trips?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay, and,
Jackson definitely does, based on the head nods.
Yeah.
okay, all right. I was aware that Cantiac did not have any class trips yet?
We haven't. We started booking.
You guys started?
Yep.
Okay, great. And so obviously things are just running back to normal as far as having parents in the building, allowing parents in the building for different events, different reasons.
For all intents and purposes, we are back to pre-pandemic.
Okay. And how are we on residency recertification? I know we were looking at something starting in October.
Ben, where are we in terms of the recertification process?
We're on schedule, all right. Dr. Fizzano is in constant contact with the company that's running the program, all right. A little bit of a glitch because some of the items were not marked as required when they filled it out digitally. He's fixing that, it'll be fixed by next week, we're ready to go, we're right on time.
What does that mean, ready to go?
Meaning that we're gonna start the process with the pursuit.
For the 6th and 9th graders?
That's correct.
We're gonna go to approval of minutes. Recommend motion be resolved that the Board of Education make any necessary corrections and move the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting dated August 15th, 2022. Do I have a motion? Chris, second. Jen, any discussion? All in favor? Approved, thank you. Opportunity for the public to be heard. If you'd like to make a comment or ask a question, please tell us your name and affiliation if you're representing a specific group. If you'd like your statement to be included in our minutes, you must hand a written copy to Victor immediately before speaking. As always, public discussion on matters related to staff or students at which their reputation, privacy, or right to due process, or those of others could in some way be violated is prohibited. Anyone want to be heard? Any emails from outside? Okay. Unfinished business. Staff acceptable use policy 6410. Be it resolved that the Board of Education adopt policy 6410. Second reading. Do I have a motion? Sam? Oh, you're just rubbing your face?
I'll make the motion,
Thank you,
thank
Sam.
you.
And second? Divya, any discussion? All in favor? New business. Jen, you wanted to support I guess it's an amendment, right?
Yes, I am asking that we make an amendment to 7540, and that's student-directed information, that we add address as one of the categories that are included for student-directed.
So that's considered a motion? And then, okay, so
And that
then
would be
motion.
Chris first.
The first reading, yeah, first reading of that policy. Do I have a second?
Yeah.
Sam, Any discussion?
Information is important to what we want to do with
Yeah.
our.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, all in favor? Thank you. All right, so we will have a second reading at the next meeting and, at the October meeting, and,
Just go back, because we've already done something, I missed one thing, the funding of reserves, Mr. Manuel?
Yes.
The last capital reserve fund 5, I think there's just a stupid typo in the last part where it still refers to capital fund 4.
Okay.
Even though you're talking about 5.
Thank you.
okay. Change in date of April board meeting. Be it resolved that the Board of Education approves changing the April meeting to Wednesday, April 19th, 2022. Do I have a motion? Chris? 2023. Yep. Thank you. Chris, second. Divya, any discussion? I needed to move the meeting, so thank you all for being cooperative. All in favor? Thank you. Acceptance of first reading, policy 7222, diploma and/or credential options for students with disabilities. First reading. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion since I wrote it.
Sam? A second? Jen? Discussion?
Sure, as I said, I'll lead the discussion and I'll try to speak loudly. I don't have a microphone.
You're welcome to share if this one.
Oh, I didn't want to oppose.
You're welcome to share that.
Thank you. So, the board has spent a lot of time reviewing and updating policies in the last 12 months since Mrs. Vartnoff and I joined the board. And as we've seen tonight, I expect that to continue this year. I think one theme has been in many policies just a lack of clarity, whether intentional or unintentional. And as part of our discussion about policies, we looked at 7222. I read it many times. I've asked others to read it. The policy lays out the requirements for graduation and participation in graduation ceremonies for students with disabilities. In my view, it does not grant any authority to district officials to waive or circumvent these explicit requirements. However, our district's attorney, in conversations, has said that the superintendent does have that right. I believe that that's contrary to what the policy says, but more importantly, I think it's contrary to what's in the best interest of the district. As a general rule, we should want graduates who have earned their degrees. Now, I understand the superintendent's point from last meeting that some districts allow non-graduating seniors, in quotation marks, with special needs to participate in graduation ceremonies. And I have no strong opinion on whether that's right or when that would be appropriate. What I do have an opinion on, and a strong opinion, is that such exemption and the resulting participation in graduation ceremonies should be at the board's discretion, not the superintendent. Now, participation in graduation includes walking in the processional, sitting on stage, having your name called, being listed in the program, being listed in newspaper advertisements, congratulating our graduates. And I think any exemption to that should, be to those things. It should be a board decision, not the unilateral decision of the superintendent of schools.
Historically, it has been a board decision, not a superintendent decision.
I fully understand that.
Just
And
for clarification, for the 26 years I've been here, that has been a board decision, not a superintendent decision.
And I don't argue that. And again, this is simply as part of our process of reviewing policies, which is why I was surprised when the district attorney said that it wasn't a board decision, that it was a superintendent's decision. Now at our last meeting, Mr. Powers wasn't here, so he didn't have a chance to discuss it at that point. However, his surrogate really didn't argue against any of the points that I made, similar to what I'm doing tonight. He simply commented that we should add a line stating that the board retains the right to waive those requirements for students with special needs and dictate under what structure such student can participate in graduation ceremonies. As the superintendent just pointed out, it has been, and I think it should be, a board decision.
and that's it. And I don't want to have, future boards. I think for the 5 of us sitting here, it's pretty clear, certainly as superintendent said, with him as superintendent, what he thinks it should be. But I'm just looking, and I think I added a total of 10 or 12 words in there that basically clarified that it's the board decision, and that graduation ceremonies and graduates have to meet the qualifications that this district over many, many years has laid out, and that's our brand. Our brand is we're producing graduates. Now, in a follow-up to Mr. Power's colleague, Mr. Goodstadt, who was here last month, who said, no, for the board to be able to do that, there should be something in that policy that does it. I've gone ahead and added language, which I can certainly give to Mr. Powers, but I'll read it and people can then comment on what they think. But basically, is the board maintains the right to grant an individual student with disabilities the right to participate in graduation activities, even if such student has not met any of the graduation requirements outlined above. Such request must be made to the board through and with the support of the superintendent of schools. So that's basically it. As the superintendent says, it's a decision that's usually made by the board. I just want to codify it here because I don't want there to be confusion. And as I said, that confusion simply came about as a discussion of policy and an interpretation that still puzzles me from the district's attorney that it wasn't a board decision, it was something that unilaterally the superintendent could do.
Sam, what are you removing from that policy as it's in the agenda packet? No, I know he's adding that, but are you removing anything that's there?
That's in the
right now?
agenda packet?
Yeah,
No, I don't believe so.
You're just adding that.
I'm just adding that sentence at Mr. Goodstat's suggestion last month. Like my understanding was that we could put the policy as it was, as I drafted it last month or 2 months ago, and that would cover what we wanted to do, and that if we ever wanted to allow a student to graduate or participate, to participate in graduation ceremonies, we could always just do that as a board. Mr. Goodstat recommended that we actually put something explicit in there, which is why I was adding that paragraph saying that the board retains the right to do it. The superintendent comes to us and says, I recommend that the board does it, or that the school allow this student to participate in graduation activities, and we say yay or nay, the same way we do with lots of other decisions in the district, like teacher tenure, like other things were covered like that. But that's sort of where I looked at it. And again, our brand is our graduates, and declaring yourself a graduate of Jericho. And whether or not you actually are, I think the participation in graduation ceremonies, to Dr. Foresto's point last month, yes, if you have your name listed in the newspaper and we congratulate the graduates of Jericho High School and a student is listed there, that is putting forward something that just isn't true. And so that's why I have the issue with those types of students participating in graduation ceremonies absent the board's approval. And like I said, I think as the superintendent says, the boards may or may not grant it. And I'm just trying to make the policy clear.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Sam, though. I mean, just so everybody's clear, the board and the superintendent and administration are not waiving graduation requirements. They're allowing a student to participate in graduation exercises. And Mr. Grishman, if a student was to be permitted to walk or participate in graduation exercises, their name would not be submitted to the papers as a graduate.
That is correct. That is
correct. Nor in the book. Correct. Yeah. So they're not graduates. They're merely participating in the exercise.
correct. And in no place are they, or have they been noted in written form as a graduate.
Nor are they presented with the diploma.
And I'd like to dispute what you said about, I'd like to dispute what you said about our brand is, a big part of our brand, which we've talked about a lot today, is doing what's best for each student and giving each student what they need for success, including their mental health. And I don't want the school to be limited if this is what a student with disabilities needs for their mental health. So I agree that we could all make exceptions, but I don't want to limit it if this is what a student needs. We're not diminishing the brand, because as you just said, we're not, holding them out as a graduate, but if a student with special needs has a need to walk with his or her peers and be included in the graduation ceremony, if that's what's best for this student's success, I don't want to be limited to not being able to give this to the student. So I would like to keep the policy as is with the last paragraph, taking out provided the student has learned. And if the decision comes up, it could come to the board, but I don't think it's necessary to add that language because it will be done on a case-by-case basis, so you're just making it more difficult for us to give the student that's what a student needs for success and to be mentally healthy and successful in life.
Well, I mean, two things. I'm in no way doing any of that. I'm simply talking about the decision-making structure of the school district. There's nothing in my proposed policy limits our school district from granting any student, and I agree with you. There are students who may need this for whatever reason, and that's why, as the superintendent said, over the last 26 years, this has been accomplished. There is nothing in here that I'm doing. As the superintendent just said, it's been a board decision. So I'm not sure why clarify, no, because as I said, our district's attorney, sorry, had said something where it said, well, no, it really could be a superintendent's decision. And so I agree with everything that you said, Mrs. Citron. I agree that we should try to do the best for what is in the interest of each student. And at the end of the day, though, the board, it's a board decision.
So then,
It should
so
be
the
a board
language should
decision.
just change the board, not just take out what you added at the first sentence, the first provided the student, and then where it says the superintendent will consider, say the superintendent and the board will consider. I'm
No, because
comfortable with that.
who's making the decision, who's making the decision.
Right, that's what I'm saying, this board and the superintendent will consider and any recommendation, so we don't need.
But who's making the decision? That's why I still don't understand. How do you make that decision? If you're saying the superintendent or whatever, the superintendent says no and the board says yes, is the student walking or not? If the superintendent says yes and the board says no,
Okay,
is
so
the
that,
student
we
walking?
can clarify that, but I don't think your preamble provided is necessary.
That's fine.
That's
Hold
not
on.
necessary.
Look, to me, at the end of the day, I was trying to make this as clear as possible.
I know, but
I was
that makes
trying-
it less clear, I believe.
Okay, but look, as long as we get in there that it should be a board decision, that it is a board, that the board must sign off on it, I'm fine with the language. Like I said, I saw a problem, I tried to write a policy that I thought, or edit a policy that I thought would accomplish that. Now, if it's made it more obtuse, I apologize, but at the end of the day, my only objective is to say that I believe this is something that should fall under board purview at the end of the day. That the superintendent is certainly involved as he is with every decision. But similar to a tenure decision where he makes the recommendation and the board votes yea or nay, the superintendent makes a recommendation, say we should allow the student to participate in graduation activities, and the board says yes or no.
I don't think your example is accurate, actually, because if Hank does not recommend someone for tenure, he can't give someone tenure over his recommendation.
And again, for 26 years, 27 years, it has been a board decision.
I understand, but that's not what the policy
So
says.
the language you wrote that said, can you read that again?
Which the provided that student?
No, that I want to
First-
take out, but what you just added,
Oh, what I just added?
Yeah.
The board maintains the right to grant an individual student with disabilities the right to participate in graduation activities, even if such student has not met any of the graduation requirements outlined above.
Then you
Such
said
re-
something with the superintendent.
I'm getting there. Such request must be made to the board through and with the support of the superintendent of schools. Again, I am trying to keep the superintendent involved in that process and try to make it, the student would go to the superintendent would bring it to the board. If you'd like to do it where the student can, if the superintendent says no, and the student can then say, well, I want to appeal to the board, I'm fine with that too. I am fine with that. My primary objective is to make sure that the board remains the arbiter of the final arbiter of these types of decisions. You can have the superintendent involved in any part of it that you want. You can have the superintendent excluded in any part that you want. I did not think this was as complicated a policy, because it sounds like you and I agree on that the board should be the final arbiter of this, of whether or not a student participates in graduation activities. I believe that's what I heard you say. I could be wrong, in which case we can go back and discuss that, but I thought you said yes, the board should be the final arbiter. That's all I was saying.
Okay, I can clean all this up.
Yeah, because I don't think your language
It
is
doesn't,
what you
it
just
doesn't.
said.
All right, so here's where we are, 2018, the last paragraph of that policy, 7222, reads as follows. It's very straightforward. The superintendent will consider any recommendation of the student's committee on special education as well as the student's own express preference. So it goes directly to the superintendent. It does not say the board in the 2018 version. That is the rationale upon which I said to you in the summer and in June, it sounds like it's the superintendent's authority to do this. You then, Mr. Perlman, provided to us a July version of this, and it has the exact same thing. The superintendent will consider. Now, having heard the rationale of the board, it's pretty easy to clean this up, which is I can add language saying that it will be the recommendation from the superintendent of schools. Ultimately, it's the decision of the Board of Education. Neither of these first two, the one from 2018 and the one from July of 2022, achieve what you just expressed tonight. I can do that for you.
That's fine. I don't pretend to be a lawyer or wordsmith.
I would not include that first sentence, because I think that contradicts what you're trying to do, Sam.
Correct, so
That's
why
fine.
don't, let's see what's.
Let's, when Chris draft a first reading for our October meeting.
But
So it's gonna be the board's call on whether the kids can participate.
Upon the superintendent's recommendation.
But you, Mr. Citron, wanted the board to be able to go around the superintendent. The superintendent said, no, the board can still allow. I'm fine with what Mr. Power said, but I believe you just said that you want the student to be able to circumvent the superintendent. The superintendent says, no, I'm not gonna recommend that to the board. You still want the student to have the ability to go.
Sam, any decision the superintendent makes on any issue whatsoever is appealable to the Board of Education.
I agree, but Mr. Goodstaff last month basically made it seem as if we need to have language in there to it. Mr. Powers trumps Mr. Goodstaff, so whatever Mr. Powers says, as long as it's there.
Good wording.
Because I have white hair.
I thought blonde.
Ben,
Blonde.
you.
All right, so Chris, you will draft something for us to read at our October board meeting.
So we table.
No, we'll have a new
Yes,
first
we're
reading,
not-
I guess. So
yes.
Technically table?
Yes.
Does this policy get the record of tabled in most
Yes,
amount of
it's
time?
very table.
Well, the first one didn't count, we just didn't talk about it.
Can I ask you a question about the remainder of the policy before we table it? It's just with regards to the Regents competency test, safety, net option. Is this something we still do? Do we still administer an RCT for students? Because there's language in here that says student entering grade 9 before 2011. Yeah, so should this be removed, that be removed as well?
Yeah, Chris will rewrite
Yeah.
things in updated language.
The other question I had was just with regards to students with 504s. Why are they ineligible for a superintendent's determination? It says that in the policy as well. Under, the district may award these diplomas or credentials or both.
The local diploma to.
Let me see something, I'm sorry.
Good one.
We have it right.
I have it here.
They're not eligible for the safety net.
Yeah,
They're not eligible for the safety net.
why is that?
That's
Because it's a different system.
Okay, because it's a legal document. Okay.
We should have asked you to do this, I apologize.
Okay, do I have a motion to table? Or we just-
I think it was table, wasn't it?
go to the- Okay. Okay. Acceptance of first reading policy 8330, objection to instructional or other materials.
Again, I wrote it, I will recommend it.
Second? Jen?
Again, this is something we've talked about. There were some complaints about what I drafted. Again, I have no pride of ownership, but basically to address some of the problems that I think Dr. Foresto raised, I added a sentence subsequently at the end of paragraph 1. So the whole paragraph will read for Mr. Ricover. Direct, open, and respectful communication between students, parents, teachers, and administrators is the quickest and most efficient method to resolve concerns about a child's education. The Board of Education strongly encourages parents and students to first address any issues with the appropriate teacher. End of first paragraph, and then going on to exactly what I had there at the July and August meeting.
I would suggest, and I brought the calendar, that on page 10 of the calendar is the chain of command. So I would suggest that we put the actual chain of command, put this in the policy. Because I think this is what we want people to do, and I think this policy does conflict with the chain of command, but this is what we always tell people to do.
Chris, in our calendar, Chris, we have a suggested procedure, basically going from teacher to curriculum associate, guidance counselor, building principal. And again, I think, Jill has mentioned the possibility of that becoming board policy. From your perspective, board policy or administrative regulation?
Administrative regulation is basically the nuts and bolts of what you're doing. So I think the best way to do that would be the following. I did some digging since you were last together in August, and I actually came up with a policy from Bayport Blue Point that we just did, so it's brand new. And it actually identifies what the levels are. First, it goes to the principal, assistant superintendent, superintendent, and board. So, and I could also put in a teacher first.
And again, one of the things that we have always stated, Chris, publicly for 100 years, is that the best resolution of an issue is student, parent, teacher. And we want that in big block capital letters, that is the best place to resolve any issues and to settle any levels of concern.
Right. So how about if we do this? I have another policy I could send you. I'll put the teacher contact. Follow this. Yeah, I'll take this, feed this into what I had done in Bayport Blue Point, give it back to you and see if that works.
That's great.
Please, I actually am uncomfortable with that until I understand it. What was Blue Point addressing? What was the Blue Point of policy addressing? Were they addressing student issues? Or were they addressing curriculum issues? Because I think there's a big difference. I think there's a difference between, and I'll just give you an example. My student didn't do well in this class because X, Y, Z. My student has an issue learning this topic. My student has an issue, whatever it is. Which is completely different in my view. And Dr. Sundberg, I apologize in advance for anything I will say, but the crazy stuff that you see in the news, like XYZ social studies teacher held a slave auction. XYZ social studies teacher was saying, write a justification as to why Adolf Hitler was a positive influence on Germany. Those are things that I don't believe should be necessarily approached through that chain of command simply because of expediency and sort of severity, I should say. And that's really, this isn't dealing with my child is struggling in this class, let me call up Mr. Grishman and tell him why I think this teacher is doing a bad job. This is much more severe than that as I read it. And again, that's why I think it was put in the same policy as library material. Because we still have to deal with library material, which it's not like, oh, I don't like something in the library because it has a book that's there. Yes, you can say go to the librarian, but there's no teacher, there's no chain of command there. And I think there's two different issues.
So what would your suggestion be, Sam?
My suggestion is that if we would like to add something to this policy along Blue Point dealing with parent or student issues specifically to a student's interaction with the teacher or performance in a class, definitely go with that chain of command. However, if it is a true curriculum issue, I actually believe that you are the right person to address that issue.
I see between those two examples a bunch of gray areas in terms of saying to the English teacher, why did you select the book Salt? An exciting, thrilling reading.
Hey, it's a beautiful book. I don't know. And tremendously controversial too. On our
blood pressure. You can't eat that.
So, I mean, as an example, again, so where does that fall? I think that falls in a conversation with the student, parent, and teacher to say, tell me why, that's a book on your book list. not a superintendent issue.
Absolutely, I agree.
Is there a political aspect to it? I mean,
No, it's not a political
but it
aspect.
is, like, that's the level that you're,
Let's go back to what the superintendent said about the prior policy. How many times in the last 26 years has a parent called you up and complained about something? If he's thinking that hard, that means that if we leave this in there, as I've suggested, the walls of Jericho will not fall. I've never used that analogy, I like it. The walls of Jericho will not fall if we leave it like this, provided that, and I have no problem with Mrs. Citron's suggestion, let's add that to the policy. But in my view, that real things should go to you.
So, again, within that policy, it's a framework. That policy has been in existence probably for 15 years. Does that preclude that I've never received a phone call where somebody, maybe just once or twice this week, that does not preclude somebody moving that discussion directly to Ivy or directly to me?
Yeah, I do, because I will tell you, I've spoken to parents who, look, they are on any level of issue hesitant to approach a teacher, hesitant to approach an administrator and I've told them, irrational, unsubstantiated fear about repercussions, and yes, we shake our head about it, I fully get it, and trust me, I know.
But that does not preclude me getting, or Ivy, getting phone calls where people have said, I'm uncomfortable with going through any of those levels, therefore, Hank, can I talk to you about? And the answer has been, look, I would prefer that here, but based upon your discomfort, let's talk about it. So again, having that in place is not precluded.
And unfortunately, as much as we don't look forward to the day, you will not always be the superintendent. Perhaps the next superintendent doesn't have that open approach to it. Perhaps.
I'm sure you will hire the next superintendent.
I don't think I'll be on this board when we hire the next superintendent. So, along those lines, I still struggle with the negative. I don't see the negative to put this in there, because I do believe that there are instances where approaching a teacher on an issue, and again, I'm not referring to myself. I'm just not. I'm not necessarily referring to even the 5 people who are making this decision, though Mrs. Bartlock may disagree with that comment. I think this policy was here for a long time because it made sense. I think it needed updating, because one of the things that happened when we had the issues 3 months ago, 4 months ago, I lose track of time, was that, you know what, there wasn't a quick response. And I think one of the things, especially when we're dealing with curriculum issues, is there should be a quick response, and there should be a mechanism in there to say, look, we're not gonna screw around with this. Let's get this done, we're gonna get it done in 2 weeks, and then we're gonna do 2 weeks to make a decision. We have the right guys involved. If it's a social studies or humanities teacher, it's Dr. Sundberg. If it's a math subject, it's Mrs. Krigstein. If it's something else, you have it, and you get to a quick resolution. I think one of the issues with the hierarchy is laid out there, those are issues where I think there's an ongoing problem, where the student is struggling in a class, the student has an issue with a specific assignment, and I think it's important that parents feel comfortable knowing that they will not be shouted down at a meeting or shouted at by a teacher if someone were to approach you and say, look, I have it, like, we've put it in there, we want you to approach the teacher, but you know that there are parents that are uncomfortable.
why don't we see what Chris writes and?
But he can write it, but it's coming back to the wrong point. He's not
No, but
putting
he
it there.
could put, I mean, I think.
He's gonna put teacher first and.
But no, but I think, I see that what you're saying about there being a separate category, but there is a big gray area, and maybe the category is, you know, some newsworthy, political, there has to be some adjective that makes it rise to that level, not just.
I'm sure that there's some language, number one, that Chris can put in. I think also, let's take a step back, board policy is the most important thing in the world to some folks. The reality is we have operated in a school district that boasts of open communication.
That anyone
So
can go
putting-
and sit on their couch.
So putting aside the formalized process, the board policy process, this district, everyone in this district, every parent, every teacher knows in this district, there are a question can be answered, a concern can be answered, and that's how we've operated, and that's one of the strengths of our school district.
That is true, however, we can go to the videotape, I mean, we had this issue 4 months ago, and I've said this, and you know it, the issue was there wasn't a quick resolution. If there had been a quick resolution, 4 months ago wouldn't have happened.
We disagree, because I do think there was a very quick resolution.
Okay.
We probably disagree.
I would defer to Mrs. Martinoff on that issue.
We
However,
see it differently.
That's
but-
fine, I saw the issue, I
And
saw it.
that's once in forever.
Of course, and that's why,
forever.
to me, all we need to do is tweak this policy, not rewrite the whole policy, because I think the calendar policy works in many cases. I think it is, I forget the formal term that Mr. Powers used for what it is, but it's not a board policy, and I actually don't think that should be board policy. I think board policy should be what we've had. I think we add a little bit more language so that it's a quick resolution, and
All right,
it's
so
really.
why don't we see what Chris comes up
That's
with,
fine.
and we'll discuss it next month.
It'll give us something to talk about next.
Is that another table?
Another table,
Thank you.
yes,
It's a real good workshop.
he doesn't have enough light.
Sam, again, I think we're pretty close to, consensus on this, just listening to everybody. At the end of the day, I think the most responsible thing to do, again, I don't even want to use chain of command. I mean, these are guidelines, obviously. The conversation, in my mind, responsibly should start with the classroom teacher, but I acknowledge there may be an instance where somebody's not comfortable doing so. And again, anybody has the right to escalate at any time.
Actually, that's not true, because people say, oh, have you spoken to the teacher? I know people who've called the curriculum associate, and they say, have you spoken to the teacher? Again, that's because what they're trying to encourage. I fully appreciate
But
that.
after that conversation, no, I'm not gonna talk to the teacher. The curriculum associate is talking to that parent.
Absolutely.
While I don't agree with that approach, I think, again, the conversation should start with the classroom teacher, but there are instances where if somebody's not comfortable doing so, I respect that.
We
So-
should prepare this
Right, so then what do we, so then I agree with you, we shouldn't have I agree with you, I hate the term chain of command, I don't know what the term is, I will research that for next month's meeting.
It's like a table of organization, I mean,
Yeah,
that's really
but
what it
the
is.
policy should be as the policy was, that at the end of the day, look, how many people even know about this policy? Up until 3 months ago, nobody knew about it, or 4 months ago, nobody knew about it. And as soon as we draft it in 6 months, everybody's gonna forget about it again. But I think it's important to have it in there, because that's the way things should work. The superintendent is here to maintain the integrity of everything, and if a parent really has a problem, as he said, he doesn't get a lot of calls on this stuff because people have this. He takes them because he's a really good guy.
All right, let's see what Chris comes up with next month.
Please note that in a minute.
Okay, so that table,
Victor.
Hopefully, we won't have another instance in the next 3 months while we're trying to put this policy.
New York State Retirement System Standard Workday. Be it resolved that for purposes of the rules of the New York State and local retirement system, the standard workday for all employees with individual agreements is 8 hours, inclusive of 1 hour for lunch, and be it resolved that the following employees' standard workday is as follows. It's all written, I'm not gonna read it all. Do I have a motion? Jen, second. Divya, any discussion? Can someone explain the
What's the
purpose of this?
purpose? Thank you. Sure. Well, I can't really explain the purpose because it's coming from the controller's office, but the controller's office runs the employees' retirement system pension. And when they came in, that's one of the areas they look at, and they said, you need to have the board approve this resolution. I said, why? And 2 hours later, I succumbed, and I said, I'll put it on the board.
Yes, dear.
Yes.
And we knew we were, someone
It's
did a
ridiculous,
job.
but being completely transparent.
Okay.
And if this is the worst recommendation we're getting from the comptroller's office, we say, thank you, Mr. DiNapoli, we appreciate it.
Can I just do one question about this? The first paragraph talks about 8 hours inclusive of a 1 hour lunch.
I have the same question.
The next schedule, then I'll let you ask the question.
Do those hours include lunch?
Yes.
Do those hours?
No, so like it says like food service helper, standard workday 6 hours. Does that include an hour of
Yeah,
lunch?
they have to get a lunch. It doesn't say an hour, I don't know, they need to do this.
So it's six less one?
It's not a full hour.
So it's the lunch is prorated. All right, move on, let's move on. Anyone?
Thank you.
Anyone in
Thank you.
favor?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
I voted in favor, I don't think anyone does that.
We're trying to change that about this board, Mr. Superintendent.
When the comptroller says jump, please say yes, dear.
Weren't there two stipulations? No. Stipulation ST 2023-03, be it resolved that the board hereby approves the special education stipulation and direct the superintendent to sign it on behalf of the board. Do I have a motion? Divya, second. Jen, any discussion?
Well, we would have lost it.
Next time.
We can executive session if you'd like.
You find people, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All in favor? Thank you. Authorization to execute contract with Scope. This is for this is for the after-school enrichment program. Be it resolved that the Board of Education authorizes the board president to execute the operating agreement with Scope for the 22-23 school year as attached. Do I have a motion? Jen, second. Divya, any discussion?
It looked fairly similar to last year's contract. Were there any important changes?
I believe not.
Who in the district does anyone in the district look at what they're doing, or they just sort of?
In which program?
Scope, the
In
after-school.
the enrichment program, yes. One of the district employees coordinates that program.
How come we don't have that in the contract, that the district employee will be coordinating?
A district employee who's hired by Scope as an additional activity. It's a district person who's hired by Scope to run that program.
Okay.
And it replaced cultural art, right? It's like,
We do it 19?
well, we did that, right?
Did we do it?
Right, all in favor, we didn't vote on this, all in favor of the contract with Scope? Thank you. Schedule.
Schedules 12840 to U346.
So I have a motion to approve the schedules.
12840.
12840 through U346.
Sure, motion.
Sam, second. Stan, any discussion?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay, please.
Nope.
No, I
No,
won't,
I don't have my-
I always go first, I won't go first.
I have to find one.
Oh, you find it. Just in random order, because some of my notes I actually can't read anymore. What are we spending all this money on Peapod? Is that Peapod the food one?
Yeah, that's food for home and careers.
Oh, man, perfect.
And
What are
home and careers.
What are we doing with the Sheriff of Suffolk County in 12822?
Fingerprinting, Victor?
12822.
How much is it for, Sam?
$460.
Could that be?
I just want to make sure he's not.
Oh, wait, say it again?
Secretary of Hence
What is
Suffolk
it?
Estate.
Who was it to?
Suffolk
The
County
Sheriff of
That could be,
Suffolk
that could be a garnishing.
Who?
Oh, garnishing.
That could be a garnishment.
A garnishment.
I know, of whom? Oh, going through someone, I got you, oh.
And the person is in the room.
If it's anything different than that, I'll let you know, but I
No
believe that's
problem.
what it is.
12825, Land Tech, 155,600, was that tennis courts?
Tennis courts.
On 12747, as a former Latin student, I am deeply disturbed by the incorrect spelling of Virgil and Catullus, if that could please be changed on the schedule.
On which schedule?
That is disposition of assets, 12747.
Disposition of assets. okay.
Yes. And we certainly, if there's some way you can summarize the disposition of technology, disposition on the next schedule, that would be great, as opposed to 10 pages of.
No,
Of
that's nice when
screens.
you said it's that long and then you go with that many pages that you can just skip through. It's like a bonus.
So I look forward to reading this, and hopefully the have roast on what's going on.
That's how I got it, so I'll.
Okay.
But, Virgil's just VIRGIL, Catullus CATULLUS. Aeneid surprisingly is spelled correctly.
You could send that in an email.
Yeah, that would be great.
I looked at it 5 hours ago, it wasn't like I'm playing this
I know, but
ahead.
the whole community doesn't.
Well, I think they do know how to spell Virgil and Catulus.
They don't
Two of our
care.
famous, well, they may not care, but that's their problem. Instructional, Schedule 12801, Instructional ELA After-School Elementary Support Program. How many kids is that for, and who qualifies?
That is invitation by committee at each elementary school, CST committee for the most part. When they review children who are struggling, we try to keep those classes. There are 2 on every grade in every building from grades 3 to 5, so it's 6 classes per building. We try to keep them to no more than 8 students each, and our results have been very good. We have results from last year's program.
And so each school has 8 students, or it's 8
No,
students per grade?
about 8 students per class, tops.
And how many classes do we have?
There are 6 in each building. 2/3 to 12 students.
Is this a program we anticipate running indefinitely?
This also
or-
came out of the grant, out of the
So-
COVID recovery grant, so it's a 3-year.
But you've had that before, but for like, for state tests and stuff, all those students went after school for extra support. So, when my son was in elementary
Yeah.
school.
I think it's more important to know how to spell Virgil.
Cover that.
Final comment, 12805, educational programs and projects. I believe this is all instruction for staff development. If the board could please receive information on 4 of those: digging into data, implementing 5E, perspectives, and politics of chocolate. Thank you. No, I know, but. okay.
Let's email that to the board.
First catalog.
I'm done, because I don't understand my other comments.
First catalog.
You get what you're gonna write?
No, I know what it says, I just don't know what it is.
All right, I see my list of questions, I got them all answered already. I spoke to Victor, and the other ones were answered during the meeting.
I just want to hear, what is the objection emails? But I don't know what the policies are. Oh, what is this IXL learning? What is this quote? You know what this is? Don't worry about it. There's something there. I'll email it to you first. This is Citron's suggestion. Everybody knows the phone. Thursday night football.
Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
We're gonna do this.
Oh, all in favor? Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Sam? Have a good night, everybody.
Not the best chair. It's a sitting.